And now for more analysis about the G20 finance ministers meeting, we're joined by Mr. Alberto Forchielli, managing partner of Mandarin Capital. So thank you very much, Alberto, for coming on the show today. So let's talk about this meeting. All these leaders are meeting in Turkey on Friday to talk about mostly this headwind that we're facing for global growth. And China obviously is going to be one of the biggest topics there. But what do you think, how much of an impact will China's slowdown have on global economy?
Well, significant, especially on commodity exporting countries in Latin America, Central Asia, Southeast Asia. But already the impact has been felt. It's not that the slowdown is occurring now. Everybody in the West thinks that after the stock market came down, there's been a slowdown. But actually, China has been slowing for a while.
That's right. It's been happening for a while now.
So yeah, there's a great concern about China's slowdown, which to me comes a little later than necessary. People should have been concerned earlier. Then there is a great concern about the overall emerging market economies. They're all like fairly shaky with a lot of capital fly going out. The IMF will be lowering growth estimate for 2015 from 3.3 to 3.1%.
And Moody's just did it, as I reported just now, lowered it to 2.8%. But what do you think, what kind of tools do these leaders actually have in their box to combat China's slowdown?
Not much. They will ask. Basically, they will ask the G20 countries to spend more. But there are very few who actually can, and the few who can don't want to spend more.
So you think
For example, Germany. Germany has a balanced budget.
That's right.
But they are so proud of having achieved a balanced budget, they will never spend more. So this is empty talk. But they will do a talk and says they will encourage G20 countries to spend more. But very few have fiscal space. Then they will ask the Fed not to increase the rates.
We'll talk about that later, but let me press you on a point when you talk about they want to spend more. What do you mean? QE, quantitative easing, more money printing?
Fiscal
spending.
Fiscal spending. So, I mean, increasing public expenditures. But the problem is very few have capacity because most G20 countries are heavily in debt.
Yeah, that's right.
And the few who are not, and Germany is the biggest example, they really don't want to do it.
Right.
And another one who could maybe is England, but they're really...
And politically is not a wise thing to do.
No, even in the U.S., there's the fiscal cliff, and there's the sequester issue, so the U.S. cannot. I mean, so this is empty talk.
Well, what about Chinese government? Should we spend more? Perhaps. We have the capacity to do it. Infrastructure spending.
Yes, but I think it's too much. I think China should find a way to spend more on social programs, more than infrastructure. I really think that it's impossible to invest wisely when you spend so much.
That's true.
And China's been investing 50% of GDP.
For a long time, right? But let's talk about that Fed rate hike that you just brought up. So right now, there's been a very heavy debate. On one hand, we have this global equity rout that really threatens the Fed's ability to actually raise rate. But on the other hand, lots of economists are saying they should just do it because this uncertainty hanging over investors' mind are actually making them more jittery. What do you think?
Ask me, I think they should hire it. It's only 25 points. But the fact is now, the IMF is saying they should not hire it. Everybody is worrying about what's going to happen to the emerging market because more money is going to run out. So there's a lot of responsibility for the Fed. What if they increase and things go wrong? So if I was Mrs. Allen, I would be very careful for those 25 points.
Miss Yellen is very careful.
Yeah, I would be very concerned, even though as an economist I think she should. I'm really concerned about it politically, from the political viewpoint.
Very much so. But do you think as an investor yourself, would a rate hike, if it does happen, would it make you more calm? Like say, okay, I don't have this thought hanging over my head anymore. I know exactly what's going to happen. Would that help?
Yeah, I think the fact that the money costs nothing is creating giant bubbles all over the place.
And it's been 9 years, right?
I mean, it's about time we come to our sense and we realize we can't go on with. We need structural adjustment. We need to make things right. I mean, this whole issue about throwing money from the helicopter like Japan has done for 20 years. It ain't going to fix anything.
Yeah, liquidity trap. They've been trapped there for more than 2 decades now. But let's talk about the possibility of them raising rates. Let's say that does happen, and currency risks, especially emerging market currencies. That's a huge factor that these leaders need to be concerned about, right? Because those currencies have been on a slide, and if the Fed does raise rates, are there any room for these currencies to fall further? If there is the room for them to fall further, what are these leaders prepared to do?
I mean, if they fall further, emerging markets need to raise rates and so slow down economy even further, which is not something anybody wants, and there's going to be a lot of capital fights. So they don't have many options. Emerging markets now don't have many options.
So they're sitting ducks at this point? If the Fed raises rate, they'll just be prepared and their currency will slide further?
Because by the end of the day, emerging markets are not in a position to enforce major structural reforms. India hasn't done them. Modi was supposed to change the world. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't changed the labor law. He hasn't changed the expropriation law. Turkey hasn't done them. Mexico hasn't done them. South Africa hasn't done them. By the end of the day, this emerging market have lived on a tremendous commodity bonanza. They need to make structural changes, but none of them is capable of doing it.
Especially
political
hurdles are a really huge wall they need to climb over.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Forchielli, with us. Well, now he's going to stay with us, and there are more discussions to come later. Folks, now let's have Mr. Alberto Forchielli back, and he is the managing partner of Mandarin Capital, for his insights on the forum on China-Russian economic relationships. So, Mr. Forchielli, let's talk about this forum that's going on right now. China clearly has the biggest delegate, over 100 people, to show good faith. But if you look at numbers, for the past year, China's investment in Russia actually decreased by about 25%. That's mostly because people don't see Russia as a very safe investment destination. So what can Putin do at this point to restore investors' confidence in the country?
No. I mean, there's not much Putin can do or say.
How much? He has so much power. What about legal frames, legal protection?
No, I know, but Russia cannot be changed overnight. I mean, Putin has grown into a system, and to change that system is going to take a few generations. It's not like, he's not a magician. Yes, you're right. We loud talk and then a trickle. One problem is the oil price is down, gas price is down, so many investment cannot be done. Legal protection, issue with the land. There are nationalistic forces in Russia. They complain about the land. So in the end, as European, we would love to have Russia more balanced toward the Pacific.
Right.
Because that would be great, to have Russia be a little bit off our back. Right. The problem is it ain't working as much as people like to talk about it.
Right.
Because I think if 1 billion has gone in from China, it's plenty.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to invest in Russia, especially with oil price down.
Yeah, exactly. But China is of vital importance to the Russian economies now. We can see that the two countries are growing very close economically, especially. But we just talked about, Junfeng gave us information, so there are multiple deals that were billions signed during Putin's trip to China yesterday. He came here and witnessed the signing of these deals, including President Xi Jinping. He was there as well. But what other areas can these two countries perhaps cooperate? Right now we've got oil and resources, and perhaps the one railway construction, I think.
Timber.
In
timber a lot. Agriculture, enormous.
Which way?
Infrastructure.
Both ways?
But primarily China should lease Russia land and grow something, make good use of it. The fact is sensitive politically, but that would be fantastic.
Right.
Lease land for timber and for development, farming development, and anything like that. But that's politically very sensitive. Also, Russia is in great need for infrastructure. But, as you correctly said, to develop infrastructure, you need a very solid legal framework that Russia doesn't have. We cannot expect it to have it in a couple of years.
So
really.
That's going to take a long time.
Now, when people say to me, Putin is bad, Putin has a terrible image, but we have to figure out in the West, okay?
Yeah.
But we have to figure out what system he comes out from. He's son of that system. He cannot change it overnight.
Yeah.
He has to adjust with what it is. So I personally think Putin is He's a guy.
Yeah, I think so.
Where he come from? Okay?
Well, yeah, he has to play with the cards that he's dealt
Sure.
with. So there are a lot of things that he would like to do. So perhaps his hands are tied as well. But economic prosperity is clearly something on his agenda as well. He wants his country to be strong economically, politically, and militarily as well. But let's talk about the Russian economy for the past year. It's not been doing very well, mostly because of Western sanctions as well as this global slump in oil prices, right? But if Russia becomes an economic superpower, it's good for everybody. We want Russia to be strong. China wants it. The Western world wants it. We want a strong economy. But for the country to become a strong economy, the country needs to break away from this reliance on natural resources, right? Because Russia primarily just sells gas and all the natural resources they have. But there are so many other things they can be doing to make the country stronger. So this is one thing that they're trying to do with this Eastern Forum. So how important is this Far East region to Russia's economy?
No, it's the future. The fact is they should also import 20 million Chinese. Because the fact is Chinese work very hard. Russians are not that hardworking. I mean, what can I say? I mean, should we tell the truth? They're great people. You know, my father was in the war in Russia, and he always told me Russian people are fantastic. You know, what
they're
can I say?
Very talented.
They're very talented, very good people, but apparently Chinese are more productive.
So this is one thing that they can
This
really...
is one element, not to be discounted.
All right, we'll see. Looks like the region will be incorporated with China, and we're all going to achieve prosperity in the process. Thank you very much for your thoughts. That is Mr. Alberto Forchielli, Managing Partner of Mandarin Capital, joining us live. Well, folks, you're watching Global Business. We'll take a short break, but stay with us.